Hello everyone, welcome to Dot to Dot, and today we're going to talk about the Oak Island episode that was last aired this past Tuesday, introducing a new theorist called Philip Stephenson, and he introduced a very interesting, at least to me, a very interesting document that he said that was in possession of his father's sister, his aunt, that was supposedly belonged to a relative, a long past relative named Robert Johnston Stephenson, and this is the document. And I have it up here. It's enlarged, so it goes further down. And I looked at this, and I've actually spent a few days looking at this and pretty much amazed by the similarities. Well, it's actually very similar to La Formula and the 90-foot stone. I actually translated it using the Kempton Cipher, which is what was used to originally decode the 90-foot stone and then later to decode La Formula in French. And this happens to be in French, just like La Formula. The 90-foot stone, if anybody doesn't know, was a translation to English. Now, when we look at this, these symbols, all of them are correct. The only one that really wasn't, I mean, it is identifiable in some regard, but it was written a little bit differently, especially this cross down at the bottom in La Formula, and the 90-foot stone, it's up here, so it's written just a little bit differently. But that was the only symbol that I could not, that was not pretty much identical to the 90-foot stone in La Formula. So, and this does translate well as an M, and that's an M. And the other thing I saw here was this north datum adjustment. That is not the translation of this. This is a note that whoever had this information had put it in as a value. So this right here will say something, and actually it says minus 21 degrees. And he's saying that this must be a north datum adjustment. Now, whether he is a person that knew of this cipher, that knew some information, is mentioned by Philip Stephenson. Whoever was in possession of this was a Freemason. I don't know the time period of when this person lived that had it. I don't know. They didn't say anything on it. What's interesting though is Jack, what is his name? Robert Johnston Stephenson. When you pull it up, the only thing I could pull it up was he was a journalist and a writer interested in the occult and black magic, and he was in the area about the time they were looking for Jack the Ripper, and apparently he was suspected. Now, is this the Robert Johnston Stephenson that is noted in Philip's record? I don't know. It would be, I'm sure there's a lot of Robert Johnston Stephensons, but the reason I got this up is because I was trying to get a sort of a time period of when this was discovered. And so if it was this Robert Johnston Stephenson, and he was British, and I think Philip sounds like he's British too, he lived between 1841 and 1816. So that's interesting, okay? And we're going to be looking at these. I'll show you the translations that come up, but each one of these has a value. And this one at the top is a north datum adjustment. Now, when I hear about north datum adjustment, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the adjustment that you have to do from magnetic north to true north. And that is done with a adjustment, usually between well, it can be as little as 1 degree all the way up to, depending on where you are on the globe, up to, I would say, 24 degrees off. And that has to do with the position of the Earth and the true the magnetism of the Earth and the difference between true north. It makes a compass off by a certain amount of degrees. And I actually mentioned this in one of my first videos, and that I thought I had a clue with the alignment of some of the triangles. And it is interesting how the declination, or the degrees that true north and magnetic north are off, tell you the time period in which the declination is appearing. Now this is a chart that I did a while ago, and it's the declination interpolation of magnetic north, and this here is in degrees, and this is a time period. Now this is the actual information goes to 1590, but it's cyclic, so I just inversed it back in time through this. And this is not hard facts here, but it is a interpolation of the data that I got for Oak Island off of NOAA. And if you put 21 degrees, it's somewhere about 1440, and probably 1520 or something like that would be 21 degrees. And it would be a minus. You would do minus 21 degrees in order to get from magnetic north to true north. And that is pretty much what I might think that might be. I don't know what else it could be, in that it's just a random adjustment. The other thing is we have here the heading from the altar. And well, let's go down, and we're looking at all these. We got the distance from the altar. Here we have what's called the solar azimuth heading. Now, I didn't know what that meant, but it really doesn't have anything to do with direction of, I don't think it has anything to do with direction. It has more to do with time. The solar azimuth heading would be where the sun rises or sets or is at mid-noon during a time period of the year. And there is, I can show you let's see. This is what a solar azimuth heading is, or a solar azimuth angle. And if you look at sunrise on spring-fall equinox, the azimuth angle is 90 degrees. So, you know, equal days, equal nights. And the sun is on this. It's 90 degrees. It rises 90 degrees and it sets at 270. Now this is all dependent upon where you are on the earth, and it is an angle that is measured from either north or south. So, and it has to do with the position of the sun, where the sun is. And it is very mathematical. There's a mathematical equations. I've looked into this. I just don't have the skills in order to find out what this may mean, but it may not mean exactly what we're supposing it to mean, which means that it's a compass heading at 145 degrees. But it's interesting that is mentioned, and we will, let's see. We'll look into that more if there's anybody that knows a little bit more. But this comes out to be 145 degrees, and he calls it the solar azimuth heading. And then we have the second distance, and then we have the depth from the marker. Okay, and here I'll show you. Now I have it. So I just hand wrote this and scanned it in. But this is the translation in French, okay, in the middle. These are all the symbols. This one I sort of messed up on, but anyway, this is what he calls it, North Datum Adjustment. And this is the translation, minus 21 degrees. Now, maybe Oliver from Oak Island Research he'll probably dissect this and find out that this is something totally different. I don't know. But one of the things is the un and the itu, whatever that means. This is definitely mean less than or minus in French. This means 20, obviously, in French. This, I don't know what it could mean. It may be and this could be 1. And here's our degree with only 1 E. And this is not in La Formula. This whole segment is not in La Formula, nor the 90-foot stone. Now the next one is heading from altar. It's 45, which is 45. That is in La Formula, and it's denoted in La Formula as an angle. The next one is distance from altar, which is 522, which is 522, and this was a distance from the altar, and this is a distance also mentioned in La Formula. I thought it meant the distance from the oak entrance, and that was my interpretation. But here, the next one is the solar azimuth heading, this strange heading, and it is cent 45, which is 145. So what that means is the solar heading, if the solar azimuth heading is 145 degrees, which would be southeast, it would be a rising of the sun at a 400, and it would denote a time of year, I would think. And it would probably be closer to fall, I would think. And then, of course, we have this one, milli, which is different from La Formula, because La Formula only has mil, M-I-L, but this one had milli, which is 1,000. Also, the sessente, which means 60, is written in this form, and there's several forms. In La Formula, it is missing this S. It's also missing the I, and it's different in La Formula, but it does come out to 60 and then 5, and this is a measurement that is in La Formula. So we have a lot of similarities in La Formula, and you know, it's interesting because, you know, I did this translation a few months back, and this is the translation that I did from word for word. Now the Syrian gold, of course, this is very controversial. This is my interpretation, but there's a lot of missing symbols in La Formula that were put in by the people that did the study for Oak Island at the university, and this was what they came up with. And you can see 45 degree is there, and the 522 is there, and the 1,065 foot. So what are we saying here? We're saying that that this note that was found by Philip Stephenson's sister or aunt is similar, and it backs up La Formula, okay, and the 90-foot stone. What's another interesting fact is that the Kempton Cipher, okay, the Kempton Cipher was revealed in 1949. That wasn't too long ago. So 1949 is when it was revealed. So if Robert Deonston Stephenson was working on this, he was working on it as a person before 1949, he would have a knowledge of this cipher before the Kempton cipher came out. Now, if it's after 1949, then, you know, that he would be using the Kempton cipher, because the Kempton cipher is what he, Philip Stephenson, used to decipher this. He had to get the values that he got. He had to use the Kempton cipher, and he doesn't mention that. And it is a substitution of the cipher. So what else can I show you guys? There's things in here that, oh, here's the original. This is off of Blockhouse blog. This is the original when they are first trying to discover the Kempton cipher and fill in the different letters for the Kempton cipher for La Formula, and this is what they ended up with. And if you remember, the Kempton cipher was only used in translating the 90-foot stone, and all the other letters were not yet known. And then a group of people from a university went in and discovered all the rest of the different letters to the cipher, and this is what came out in La Formula. So let's see, what other things do I have about this? It's interesting. It's, my take on it is that Robert de Johnston was very much into this. He must have known something if he lived before 1949, or maybe he didn't. There's no values or decoding of this cipher here in this note. There's only references to the values of the note. And however, the values are pretty interesting. And this one makes sense to me, the north datum adjustment of 21 degrees. If this is 21 degrees and this is talking about what I think it is, declination, magnetic declination, I mean, we're talking about somewhere in the 1400s to the early 1500s. And the evidence on Oak Island they're finding nowadays may point to that early of a date. But I think this Robert de Johnston was probably somebody who was trying to figure it out just like we are today. And he knew something, possibly through his Masonic contacts. He knew something about, obviously he knew something about the translation, or he didn't know something about the translation. But the fact that he wrote these symbols down and that they correspond to a lot of the symbols in La Formula, and some of the things that are not in La Formula, like the heading, the solar azimuth heading. I don't know what that means, but this is 145. And I know 145, that brings up that is a value that I use. And it is a value off of Nolan's Cross. It is the value from the headstone to the top stone. But it's a distance, it's not an angle. 522 is an angle. So here we have right here, this is, I drew, this is what Philip Stephenson proposed, that there's a 24-degree angle. I don't know how he came about that. Here, I'm going to do this. I hope John doesn't mind that I use this thing. And if you guys want to see a good show and go a good channel and gives a good review, he doesn't have that many subscribers yet, but go to, it's called I'm going to put his link to his channel in my description. It's the Oak Island discussion group, and he goes over every episode and everything. But this came off of the TV show, and this is what Philip Stephenson proposed, that you take minus 21 degrees off of this 45. I really don't understand what he's doing here, but and then he goes out 522 feet, and then he subtracts 21 degrees from the 145, and he goes out the 1,065 feet. So that's what he proposed, and they drilled there and they didn't find anything. Well, they found some crushed up boulder, I guess. But here is, this is if you did it taking that minus 21 degrees as a magnetic declination, and basically that would just leave you right here on Google Earth oriented to true north. You go 45 degrees off of that, and then you go 145 degrees off of that, because we are oriented to true north. The other thing is too, is if this is pre-1668, okay, the 522, if you've seen in my previous videos, would not be 522 feet in our measurement units, but it would be 559 to a little over 559 feet in our units, and the 1065 would be 1,141 feet in our units. So that's the other thing that wasn't taken into consideration either. Interesting, very interesting. It was refreshing to see some of the things that came out of this. It's refreshing to see, you know, the different kinds of interpretation that people have. But the most refreshing thing to me was, if this document is, well, I'm going to assume it's real. I want to assume it's real, that he did find it in a book. Somebody knew about this cipher, which was actually decoded by Kempton back in 1949, that it relates exactly to the symbols of La Formula and the 90-foot stone. Therefore giving more credence. It's just more evidence that the 90-foot stone and La Formula is connected to whatever is on Oak Island, and that it will be used, okay, to hopefully discover more information, or discover the meaning of what this is. So where did he get this what document did he get this from? Did he make it up? Is he making this up? I don't know. I don't know where he's from, what time period. To me, it seems like he is somebody trying to figure it out. Solar azimuth heading, that really confuses me, and if you guys have any suggestions, leave it in the comments. So that's all I have for you today, and here's the 90-foot stone, and that's what Kempton did in 1949. So I hope I've answered some questions, and we'll talk to you next time. All right? Thanks for watching. Good night.